Canada's honorary captain, Mac Marcoux, is here. He's helping support the Team Canada athletes as they go for gold in Milano Cortina in 2026. We'll find out what the role entails and how he's using his experience to help the team. You won't want to miss it. Let's get started.
Welcome to Parasport Nation with Alex Smyth and Nathan Clement.
Welcome into Parasport Nation. I'm your host, Alex Smyth, and as you can probably tell from the sound of my voice or my general demeanor, I am battling a cold, and unfortunately, I'm not alone in this endeavor because co-host Nathan Clement, you are in a pretty similar situation.
We're not healthy scratches right now. We are definitely on the IR, but we're going to make our way through this. Not going to have any load management. We're going right into this interview today, right into these conversations, and we're going to do the best despite the adversity we're facing.
Yeah, we're going to power through and give the best effort. We're going to give 110%. We're going to get the pucks in deep, and we're going to cycle all four lines. Whatever that means to you at home, I don't know. But let's start off with wheelchair curling, Nathan. Enough of the hockey talk, because Team Canada's wheelchair curling team, they placed fifth in the International Wheelchair Curling Tournament 2025. I have to say this is a bit concerning. So in the prelims, Canada's opened up with 11-5 win over Latvia. They lost 6-5 over to Slovakia 1, the eventual champions. Then they fell to Sweden 4-2, but beat Italy 8-2. What ended up happening, every single team in that division that Canada was in all finished 2-2. And just like when it was the mixed doubles in wheelchair curling, the placement, the seeding, the numbers beyond the record did not bode well for Canada, and they were on the outside looking in, eventually coming back, beating teams to make fifth place in the competition. But if you're looking at this overall, you got to be a bit concerned for the wheelchair curling team, right, Nathan?
Right now, I'm not concerned. I think at this moment, it is a fifth place finish at a major international tournament. Not what you want, but if you go back to the last week this team has had, they just had the roster announced for the Paralympic Games and in Canada, and then they traveled over to Europe with only a couple days to really adjust themselves. And even there, as you mentioned, tough kind of draw in the groups, but this is a roster that won bronze at the World Championships back in Scotland earlier this year. Additionally, that mixed doubles pairing of Mark Eidson and Ina Forrest in that group play round, they went undefeated and they just got unlucky with their draw, losing to Japan, who eventually won that mixed doubles title that year. So this is a team that has experience. This is a team that has built success and has recently won medals on that international scene. So I think right now, this is just a quick little blip, but not actually an accurate depiction of where Canada's at in wheelchair curling.
Oh, and to give some added context, so the top three teams of the tournament, you had Slovakia won, so Canada lost to them 6-5. It was a tight game there. Then Great Britain got the silver. They didn't come up against Great Britain. But Italy won bronze, and Canada dominated Italy 8-2. So they won big over teams and then lost really tight, tough games. Like it's yes, it's unfortunate. They're definitely going to be a medal contender when it's all said and done in Milano Cortina. That said, though, it's like this is now kind of like the second time where it's like the expectations are so high that it's like anything less than a medal finish. It's just frankly a bit shocking. I do appreciate what you did add the context, though. You know, it was a busy week for them, having the announcement, doing the press for that, and then getting over to be in the competition. That's a bit of a whirlwind. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of stress during that time. So I appreciate that. May not have been at their best coming into this competition, but hopefully we go forward, things are going to shake out a bit better. But this got me thinking, and I want you to help me with this, Nathan. I want you to break down your concern level for each of the Paralympic sport teams and the groups as they're preparing for Milano Cortina. So how thick is the ice that they're playing on, just to borrow the analogy of winter sports. So starting with wheelchair curling, is it thick ice that there's no concerns? Is the ice in a kind of steady, it's not too bad, or is it thin and cracks are starting to form for you?
You hear that? It's quiet. There's no cracks.
I hear nothing.
There's no cracks in the ice for the wheelchair curling team. I think that ice is pretty thick. It is an anomaly what happened, and you even brought into context the results in the tournament, and even in previous years, this roster and this squad has pushed the two-time reigning Paralympic champions, China, to the brink. So this is a team that has that experience. I think the ice is pretty thick. Do you think they're on thin ice, or do you think they're on thick ice, Alex?
I think it's somewhere in between. I think there's just a hint of like the hairline cracks starting to form, and it's not a concern about the skill level or how they're going to necessarily play. It's just the luck has not been on their side, and there's been some controversy in the previous games and things like that. It's like there is that 10%, that 5% difference of a certain rock getting swung a certain way, or just like in other sports, you get the lucky bounces, and Team Canada just hasn't quite gotten those. So I'm concerned for that. But beyond that, it's no time to panic. So medium ice with just a little hairline fracture that's just forming, one you want to look at and keep an eye on, but not one that you need to get off the ice right away. So that's wheelchair curling. What about para ice hockey? They're starting a competition this weekend in Dawson's Creek. How thick's the ice for the para ice hockey team?
I'm in the vein that the ice has a couple cracks in it, but it's nothing to really watch out. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Dawson's Creek. That ice could be cracking a little bit more, but I do believe that this is a team that still is really finding its form under Boris Rybelka. They're building the systems. They're building a program. That takes time. And fortunately, they have time till Italy with just under 100 days now to the games. But I think that ice is a little bit of a medium crack, but I could definitely see that ice heal potentially as well. How about yourself, Alex?
See, I think the biggest difference when it comes to para ice hockey, our expectation is just it's gold or bust, really. And they've come up against the Americans time and time again, with the exception of the World Championships now a couple years ago, a couple competitions ago. They've been on the losing end of those battles. Is it just an issue of our expectation that this team needs to go for gold every single time? Or is it time now to finally admit the Americans are they have the better development, they have the stronger team right now? I would say it's on the medium to thin side, just based solely on expectation. I think you stack them up against any other team or any other sport, you would be happy with a silver medal consistently. But when it comes to para ice hockey, one of Canada's iconic sports, especially in the Paralympics, you want that gold. So it's a bit thinner of the ice just based on that. Next up, para Alpine. How thin is the ice as they're ripping their way down those slopes, Nathan?
The ice is pretty thick. Right now, they're about to start their season in a couple weeks in Stanek am Brenner in Austria before they get into the big European gauntlet that their program and their calendar has throughout the year. This is a team that has had injuries in the past, but they have a strong roster led by Molly Jepson, Alexis Guimond, Michaela Goslin, as well as Kale Eriksson and Sierra Smith are really looking to take that rise, as this is just under 100 days to go, and I think this is a program that's going to be one of Canada's strongest come Italy, come March. How about you, Alex?
Yep. Yeah, I 100% agree. This is the second thickest ice you could find. Like, it's pretty much like an iceberg or at least a glacier, I would say. Like, no concerns about the Para-Alpine team. Enough said. They're stacked with talent. They should be strong and competitive throughout. This next team, Nathan, I'm going to say this is the most confident, and I've been consistent on this, the Para-Nordic and biathlon team. This is an iceberg. You only see a little bit of the ice, but it runs deep. No concerns, zero concerns about the Para-Nordic or biathlon teams. What about you?
Yeah, no concern at all. This is not even like an iceberg. This is a continent of strength. This ice is just a continent. There's nothing cracking it. This is a team with just leadership at the top from Mark Arends. You have Natalie Wilkie, you have Brittany Hudak. You also have athletes who are really looking to take that next step. Derek Slaponsky is going to be a guy who I think really reaches a new level in Milano Cortina. And you just have incredible depth in this roster, especially with the World Cups coming to Canada in the next couple of weeks. You're just going to see that this is a team that is a well-oiled machine that you don't have to worry about anything with them.
Absolutely. Now, lastly on the program, para snowboard. This is an interesting one. I want to get your take, but I have a bit of an interesting take on this one.
I want to hear it. You've teased it up.
Okay, I think I teased it up. Okay, I think this is thinner than people think. I think you have a very strong head of the pack in Tyler Turner, friend of the program, but once you get past him on the field, I think there's reason to worry. So I will say there was cracks in the ice, and if there's too much weight on it, we could see a bit of a crash through the ice, a bit of a collapse. Right now, it's okay, but one false step, I think para snowboard could be in trouble. What are your thoughts?
I do see the ice as a little thin, as you mentioned, but it's not like Vancouver ice where it's just going to immediately crack through as soon as you step on it. But this is a team, as you mentioned, Tyler Turner, the head of the program. He is going to really, hopefully, succeed well in this season, starting off in Landgraf in the Netherlands before going into the calendar in Big White for World Championships. But with para snowboarding, they have an amazing program, amazing development pathway. But it just takes that time where outside of Tyler, that ice is still going to be thin for the moment, but it can definitely solidify and really build strong going into future games.
Yeah, well, and you know what? Someone who really enjoyed ice and hard packed snow, Mac Marcoux, our next guest on the program, the former Alpine Paralympic star. He is now the honorary team captain for Canada's team heading into Milano Cortina 2026. He joins the program now to share what that role means and how he's approaching his new position with the team. Here's our conversation with Mac Marcoux. Mac, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
So, obviously, first off, congratulations on being named the honorary captain for the Milano Cortina Canadian Paralympic team. What were your initial reactions when you heard the news?
Oh, man, I'm not gonna lie. It took me a little bit to process what I was being asked when I sat on an initial call, kind of surrounding the. Basically, we chatted about the model for our captain and co-captains, and they had asked me if I would consider the role of honorary captain, and obviously, without even hesitating, I said absolutely, not even gonna. Something I could think twice about, but it took a little bit of time to digest. And I think, like, in the grand scheme of things, what an absolute honor to be able to rejoin our Canadian Paralympic team in a different capacity. Having the opportunity to represent on more of a athlete representative basis, more of a, I guess, public facing athlete ambassador for our Milano Cortina 26 team. Yeah, such a cool opportunity. I'm so stoked to see how this role plays out and be a part of kind of the development of this model, because it is something that is new. And we're just kind of figuring out what works, what doesn't, and rolling with the punches in a sense.
Mac, congratulations and thank you for coming on. There's no one more deserving than you of this title. This is the first time, as you mentioned, that Canada's rolling out the honorary captain and co-captain model. What role will you be playing, but also will the athletes be playing as captains and co-captains?
Yeah, no, thanks, Nathan. Really appreciate it. I'd say the role, I guess, as honorary captain, we'll start off there, would be more of a public-facing athlete ambassador role as a non-active athlete. So it's I don't want to say replacing the chef de mission model, but it is we're looking to go a little bit of a different direction with this, with hopefully being able to use myself from an availability standpoint, the co-captains are all active competing athletes. So working alongside our co-captains to kind of gauge and get a really solid pulse of what's going on in our Canadian Paralympic team environment rolling into the games and throughout the games in March. And then, for myself, I can pull a little bit of insight from my own high performance career along with all this information coming out from the co-captains. And I think with our co-captains, the real cool part about, having a co-captain in each sport that is taking place in Milano Cortina is that we'll be able to really dive into what's happening behind the scenes of the athlete life, hopefully without causing too much distraction is the goal. And that's kind of where my role steps in is, I can kind of be supplemented in and out where necessary when it comes to working with media and some of these activations that come along with the captain role, so that our co-captains can focus on their main priority, which is there to compete, but we can work together to really build a solid vision of what's happening in the journey leading up to the games and throughout the games in March.
You mentioned how you're going to be more the kind of public facing kind of role on this team. Like, is there a specific element or aspect of this role that you're really excited to kind of dive into or explore? Is it doing things like this? We're doing kind of the interviews talking about the team, or are there other elements or aspects that kind of excite you as well?
Yeah, definitely things like this are super exciting, having the opportunity to chat and talk about how excited we are for 2026. We're just rolling in. We're 101 days out today, which is insane to think about. It's hard to believe the last 4 years flew by this fast. And I think for myself, another thing that really, really gets me fired up is the opportunity to get to know our athlete community a lot better and a lot more in depth. It's for me, it's opportunity to really kind of dive deep into each of our athletes' stories and get to know everyone. Really have hopefully an opportunity to showcase as many of their individual journeys as possible and tell their stories, because everyone has such an incredible journey from the right from the grassroots level right up into this now build up to for some their first Paralympics. Some people have been around for I think up to five games. So yeah, really big spectrum of athletes across the board. Super excited to get to know everyone a bit more.
You mentioned it there, Mac. We're just over 100 days till the Winter Paralympics get going in Milano Cortina. You've been to 3 Paralympics, won 6 medals, and you know a lot of these athletes, especially in Alpine, skiing, and some other sports. What excites you most about this group heading into Italy in March?
It's a big list, Nathan. I'm not gonna lie. I'm so excited for so many different things rolling into Milano Cortina, especially with this incredible group of athletes heading over there. Like you said, I have had the opportunity to compete alongside honestly the majority of athletes heading back. There's I think having the opportunity to know them on a little bit more of a personal level or a peer level as an athlete has been really cool, and being able to watch their careers continue to develop and watch the momentum continue to build going into the games. I always really like this, this 100 days out, rolling up to the games. It's like a 3-month period where we really have an opportunity to take a step back, look at what's happening in our sport community, get to watch everyone start that build process with the ideal peak, surrounding the games. But that being said, there's a lot going on in the meantime. Everyone's still in the middle of a World Cup season, rolling right into March. So I'm super excited just to watch all the action unfold in each and every sport rolling into the games. And yeah, just so stoked to see everyone get to Milano Cortina and do what they know best.
Now you've been since retirement. You've since joined the CPC as a coordinator for athletic engagement. Like, how has that experience helped kind of inform you on some of the behind the scenes aspects of what the CPC is doing to support athletes and pushing towards these games?
Oh man, the perspective is definitely, I'd say, quite profound. Starting, obviously, my journey in sport out as an athlete, I spent 15 or so years in a high performance program with the Canadian Paralympic team, and I guess since retiring from sport and jumping on board, kind of behind the scenes in more of a sports admin role, it's really opened my eyes to all of the moving parts that goes into making sure that athletes like myself have the best possible experience at the games. It's hard to believe that we're sitting in and having meetings consistently looking, we're still rolling into Cortina, and we're looking into LA and into farther games, starting the planning and prep phases for that. So it's just, there's so many moving parts and so much that has to get done in order to make sure that we have, the best possible games environment. But it's really cool to have the opportunity to peek in there through my day-to-day role now and have the chance to kind of give back to sport in that sense, hopefully working to create or be a part of creating that better environment for athletes moving forward.
Mac, you mentioned it there. It's the start of the World Cup season for a lot of the snow sports, especially alpine skiing is starting in Stanek am Brenner in the middle of December, and we're just over that 100-day mark now. How do athletes and even para-alpine athletes balance that preparation for the games, but also a full season about to start for the World Cups and World Championships on the slopes?
That's a great question, Nathan. It's easy to think in a games year that it kind of turns into a little bit of tunnel vision as an athlete, and your main focus is rolling into March. But the reality is there's a full competition season for the most part right between now and the beginning of March. So as much as athletes like to keep kind of a long lens in a sense on the games, the priority still lies on showing up every day at training and using the next 3 months as for me, I guess personally, I would use those next 3 months as a little bit of a building phase, trying to really refine on what we're working on, both in the training and race environments, and get to a point where we're as ready as we can be when March comes. But I can't say that March is the priority for everybody in a sense. There's a lot of races and competitions in the meantime, and I think the best way I could put it is that you kind of keep an eye on it, but at the same point stay focused on the task at hand and kind of check off one day at a time until we make it over to Milano Cortina in the spring.
For yourself, when you were competing and you were balancing the World Cup season and preparation for the Paralympics, like at what point did you usually feel like, okay, you're locked in, or you're going to have a strong competition at the Paralympics? Was it a couple weeks out? Was it even like further out, like a month or two during the World Cup season after you get a couple races under your belt?
That's it's an interesting question, because I think throughout my whole career, I would say that feeling evolved. So rolling into, let's say, 2014, I don't know if I ever felt like I was ready to be at the games. It was one of those, it was a pretty big culture shock for me in a sense to even just walk into my first village in Sochi. And I think I was pretty much overwhelmed from when I showed up to when I left. We managed to find ways to fool around and keep a level head, but it is a pretty incredible experience walking into your first games. And by the time 2018 rolled around, I had cut my teeth a little more on the World Cup, and had more established myself within the world of parasport. And was a little bit more confident, I'd say in, 2017, 2018 was probably the most confident I felt rolling into games. being that my body was in good shape and I wasn't battling injuries, or I wasn't dealing with as much of the pre-race jitters. And then, rolling into my final quad, my body was starting to push back a little bit. You can only be so hard on something for so long, and it evolved. I think by the time I was rolling into the games, I was as ready as I could be, but it would have been, right till mid to end of February where we were still looking for good feelings on snow. I had just returned back to sport from injury, and the games was going to be my first race back. So I was back to kind of the how I was feeling in 2014, a little bit unsure how things were going to play out, but I knew that we had done everything we could in preparation to be in the best possible place come the beginning of March to kick out of the start gate. And I think for me, the nerves kind of drop as soon as I kicked out of the start gate on a downhill day. It's kind of like, we're here, we did it. That was the initial goal. And from here, let's see what we can do. So yeah, I'd say that's definitely, there's an evolution to that question. I don't know if there's ever a certain time where you're like, yep, I'm ready. But just trusting in the process in between the games and the team that's you're surrounded by in order to make kind of the best decisions rolling into the games.
Out of curiosity, with preparation leading into the games, for a lot of sports, like I know for myself in cycling, we knew of our course about a year out of the games. How does that work in Alpine? Do you have an idea of where the gates are going to be, or is that a changing kind of evolution, say before race day or just before the competition starts?
I think you have an idea is the best way to say. There is an opportunity to take part in a couple test events prior to games, and this would be, last season or season prior. They would have hosted some World Cups at Cortina, giving you an opportunity to at least get on the slope, knowing exactly where the gates are going to be. I think discipline by discipline, things change quite a bit. So your downhill and your super Gs, really, there's only a few different ways that you can set a track like that because the turns are so massive, and you're really just trying to find a way to complement the contours of the mountain and really create a fun and exciting track for the athletes that are racing. So most people have a similar idea of how they like to set things, with obviously a few tweaks here and there. But by the time you get into your tech events, it's really depends on who's setting the course that day. And that's more of a anything goes in a sense, as long as you're within the rules and regulations, the track can kind of go wherever it lands on the slope. So
Mac, we're going to wrap up the conversation with a bit of a rapid fire. Me and Nathan will bounce questions back to you in quick succession. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, what was your all-time favorite mountain snack?
Usually like a gummy bear or something like that.
Morning skiing or night skiing?
Morning skiing, fresh corduroy every day.
And this kind of builds off this. What was your ideal snow conditions?
I would say the harder the better, obviously within reason, but yeah, the harder the surface, the grippier the snow. So that's best case for a ski racer.
What's your biggest pet peeves on the mountain?
Cold feet, rainy days.
Dream mountain to ski down.
Dream mountain to ski down. There's so many. I think Mount Currie in Pemberton, BC.
Who would be your dream dinner guest, dead, alive?
Dream dinner guest. I've always looked up to many ski racers over the years, but I'd say Didier Couche is someone I followed from a young age and was always fascinated by his ability to ski fast. So if I could have him over for dinner, that'd be insane.
If you could try any other parasport, which one would you try?
Any other parasport, track cycling.
I love hearing cycling. In one word, describe how you're feeling heading into Milano Cortina.
Stoked.
That's a great way to end it. Mac, thanks so much. We really appreciate you taking the time, and best of luck as you and the team head into Milano Cortina.
Thank you so much.
And that was our conversation with Mac Marcoux. Nathan, it's always great to catch up with, friends of the program, people that you kind of cross paths with throughout the year. I enjoyed catching up with Mac, but unfortunately, we're up against the clock. We can't even dive too much into it. So your quick thoughts as we head out the door on our conversation with Mac.
He is such an incredible guy. I've gotten to really know him over the last couple of years since he's really gotten into the athlete engagement role and what he's done to spearhead so many opportunities for athletes. He's had an amazing impact, obviously, in his athletic career as an Alpine skier, winning 6 medals at 3 games. But what he's doing for athletes in Canada exceeds and really helps that really helps exceed and help that Paralympic movement grow and expand and really take that next evolution. And just him having this opportunity to be an honorary captain, take that weight off of so many athletes. There's no better guy and there's no better leader in winter sports for Canada.
And couldn't say it any better myself. For Nathan, I'm Alex. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Parasport Nation. Like and subscribe to the channel to follow us now.